My name's Simon Brew. This is Thoughts on the Blues. Cheers, everyone. Since the game, this afternoon, I confess I've had a sleep. I just need to refresh my mind as to what happened. Let's have a look. Our only goal was scored by Jack Robinson. Jack Robinson had what? A 25-yard screamer tipped over the bar? We had a centre-back sent off for a reckless tackle, and it was Christoph Klarer. Man of the match, the man who nearly scored us a winning goal. Bloody hell, this shit's good. Cheers. Right, hello and a very warm welcome to a festive Thoughts on the Blues. It is now 25 days since Birmingham City won a football match, and since then there have not been many occasions where Birmingham City have looked like they're going to win a football match. That notwithstanding, I'm very conscious at the moment, as I keep saying, a glass half full person, that you go on the internet after any disappointing Blues performance and it is meltdown central. It's Davies out. This is the worst ever. It's all got to change tomorrow. Sack the recruitment team. Blah blah blah. Everything rubbish. Blah. And right, there are some issues here. We'll get into some of those issues. I do think it's worth doing context. Right. So if we go back to, I don't know, the last time we finished in the top 10 in the Championship was 2015-16 season. We finished 10th with 63 points. Since then, we finished 19th, 19th, 17th, 20th, 18th, 20th, 17th, 22nd. We have had, what's that? 1, 2, 3, God, it's Christmas. It's 8 consecutive seasons of finishing no higher than 17th in the Championship, circling the drain before we finally went down. Obviously bounced back last year. Also, for context, in those years since 2015-16, part of the ground was condemned. We had some of the worst managers in Birmingham City history. We had Ita Karanka playing in front of empty stands. It would have been the same if it hadn't been COVID. Who would have turned up to watch that? We had Steve Cottrell. We had Harry Redknapp. We had the Wayne Rooney era. We've had a whole bunch of problems. And this season, we're a lot better than that. I think we are the best. I mean, statistically, we are performing the best we've performed in the Championship for 10 years. Okay, so just in terms of the level, and just before we get into Meltdown Central, it's worth contextualising. We have had a decade of dross and problems and rubbish and owners going to prison, and we haven't had any hope, really. And I think part of the problem this season is we've got loads of hope and the team isn't meeting the levels of our hope. And again, we'll get into that. But in terms of contextualising where we are as Birmingham City Football Club, the best position we've been in for a decade, with a sneaking, just that underlying feeling we should be doing better. However, as a platform, a much better place. So get off Twitter, X, whatever it's called, and forums and stuff like that. Well, it's up to you. You do what you like. But the actual grounded context of it is far more positive. The fact, however, that I'm having to say all of this suggests all is not merry down in B9, and indeed it isn't. Birmingham City versus Derby County finished 1-1, a Boxing Day game. Looking forward to going to it. I booked as well. I'm really pleased with myself. I booked a parking space in advance because it was well known there were going to be transport problems ahoy around St Andrews. The bus services were barely running, blah, blah, blah. So in truth, I paid over the odds for one of those park on your driveway things just to make sure like we could get to the ground. I travel in from Halesowen and had my kid with me. I'd just like to wish a Merry Christmas to the person whose like drive that I paid to park on, who got a fair chunk of money for doing absolutely sod all, because woke up, my kid wasn't feeling very well, couldn't go, gutted, watched it at home. So full content. I was really looking forward to seeing if I was going to get my proper crevice search from the security staff on the way into the Blues. Wasn't to be. I had to resign myself to watching at home. I had a choice between Blues TV and the let's turn even the most smelliest poo into like something bright and glorious, or Sky with Don Goodman. I went with Sky. I mean, it's Christmas. I gambled. Let's give it a go, right? But even before their coverage had kicked in, we had what I'm going to give an early award to the most WTF lineup of the season. Before we get to that, a note on John Eustace, because obviously it was John Eustace, Derby County, coming back to St Andrews. Eustace has been back before. I'm not one for like the hating of John Eustace. I'm also not one for digging back into history of blood, because we've gone through this so many times. Every time he walks back into that ground, gets a huge round of applause off me. Well, he would have done if I was bloody there, right? But he gets a big round of applause for what he did in really difficult circumstances. We all moved on. He got a rough ride. He got a good payoff. I wish him nothing but the very best. Thank him for what he did to our club. Likewise, Derby fans, that small section of Blues fans who were singing "We'll Have a Party When Derby Die" a couple of seasons ago. Not me. That's not my fandom. I wish Derby. I wish Derby continued. I wouldn't say success because they're a rival club, but I wish them continued life. I'm an old romantic, really. If people in Derby are supporting Derby County rather than Manchester City, that's a good thing. And if that's your local club, all power to you. They weren't singing for me. So there's a whole bunch of it's like going to one of those crappy meetings and everyone does all the any other business that goes on forever before we get to the match. So let's get to the match. Going to need a bit more of this. The team selection. Okay, so the team selection comes in and you look after a really bad defeat, and without any question at all, the defeat that we suffered at Sheffield United was one of the worst of the season. For context, Sheffield United got tonked by Wrexham 5-3 today, and it just makes our result look all the worse that we're turning up and playing teams as if we're feeling they're going to be invincible or something, or we can't lay a glove on them. Wrexham stuffed 5 goals past them. We didn't even have 5 decent shots at them. So I was expecting changes. I was expecting a response. I got changes. So I got all right. It's not a good look as a Blues fan, isn't it? Is it? When you see the team and you just think, oh, this might be this might be tougher than I thought. And God, that ain't going to get better over the next 2-3 games. So, Beadle back in goal, little bit harsh on Allsop, I thought, but Beadle's back, so be it. Then, a back 4, Iwata, no argument there. Klarer, yeah. Robinson, he'd been filling left back for Alex Cochrane. Done a decent job the last couple of games, I think. Not much pace, but a good long throw in and had looked relatively solid. Aaron Cashim now at left back. Robinson as centre half. I looked at that back 4. I was just like, ooh, I think I made that noise. I'll do it again for you if you want. Ooh. Then, in front of them, Leonard and Peck. I think most of us saw that coming. There aren't really full-back options, so we couldn't push Iwata forward again. Mark Leonard deserves a run in the team. I think he never gives less than a 7 out of 10. I wish he'd give a few more 9 out of 10s, but I'm a great believer in you want consistency from players. You want them to improve. You've got to start them. You don't bring them on for 20, 30 minutes at a time. In front of them, Roberts and Gray on the wings. Hard to argue with that. Keshi Anderson, we're told, was injured. Perhaps he'd seen a replay of the last game. I really like Keshi Anderson. I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say, I suspect he'd agree that he's just played his worst game for us. I don't like to see him injured. I think he's a game changer for us on his day. He was not even on the bench. Robertson Gray, no argument with. Stansfield back in the number 10 role. Stansfield is working his backside off, but not looking like a weapon. In the old Jay Stansfield way. We might come back to that. We've certainly got a few of these episodes over the next few days, so God knows it's likely to come up, hopefully for good reasons. And then Ducks recalled at the top, which suggests to me that Chris Davies isn't having an awful lot of shrift with the idea of give Kyogo a start. I do wonder if we're going to move him on then, because if you're not starting him and Ducks hasn't really put in a performance over his last 2-3 games that have merited the shirt, I don't think. I mean, he's got the capability to do it, and his link-up play and stuff is really good. I just think he's been missing last couple of games. I would have started Kyogo, but there's presumably a reason now. Well, the complete lack of goals, possibly one. There's presumably a reason he's not up top. I do think back to that Ipswich game, the way Stansfield and Kyogo linked up, how like Stansfield hugged Kyogo as he went off the pitch. They'd had such a brilliant. That notwithstanding, that was the lineup. On the bench, two surprises. Fujimoto is still alive. So that's one. That was a nice surprise. No chance of him playing, but the fact that he got to put a shirt on, fair play. And then we got this player, Win. Remember one of those? Midfielder from the under-21s, wearing the 47 shirt. Big congratulations to him for getting to the bench. I thought the team selection was tough on Willem Willemsen, who I thought came out of our last game, one of the few with any credit. I think Alphonse Samsted has been talked up by Chris Davies in recent interviews as we've got a lack of natural fullbacks. He might not be moving on. I'm just like, I don't know what he's got to do to get a start here. And then the surprise for me is Neumann's dropped back to the bench. I don't know what that does to his confidence, really. I don't think he was the problem. I don't think he was great against Sheffield United. I don't think Klarer and Neumann have been like either of them particularly at their best for a few games. I also don't think they've been the big problems. That notwithstanding, that's what we've got. Derby, we know, I mean, we've watched enough John Eustace football. We know they're going to turn up as this counter-attacking team, try and whack us on the break. We all know what's coming. And so settling back on, a relatively pleasant Boxing Day, I did wonder if John Eustace looked at the team and just thought, I got sacked for less than that. That notwithstanding, I respect completely the fact that Chris Davies took a massive gamble. And it's the kind of team selection I looked at and thought, if that goes really badly wrong, it's going to be messy tonight. I don't think it went really badly wrong, but it did feel a bit like a do-or-die team sheet to me. As it turned out, perhaps me being a little bit dramatic. Who would have thought? I did look at that list though and thought, yes, that is a list of 11 names on a piece of paper. I might get another drink. Sky build-up's a bit drab, isn't it? I haven't watched that for a while. They've got Curtis Davies pointing at this weird graph talking about XG and stuff like that. No idea. Didn't care. The key thing was Derby came in on a bit of an unbeaten run, but not winning and blah, 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 blah. They did some interview with Patrick Roberts telling us brilliant at home. He had a nice Christmas. I don't know why we're doing these interviews. Just don't tell us anything. Happy Christmas, Patrick Roberts. No problem. But the reason I mentioned the build-up is Sky had the temerity, their analysers had the temerity in the build-up to talk about the sluggishness of football at 12:30 kickoffs, as if they had sod all to do with the fact we're watching this game at 12:30 on Boxing Day. I can't go to the Coventry game, the home game to Coventry, because they've moved it to a Sunday at 12 o'clock. I cannot go because of their scheduling. But there they are. Well, it's made the football sluggish. Sod you, Sky. Anyway, we kick off twice. I haven't seen that for a while. And I know that the Derby fans are in fine voice, singing like, where were you when you were shit? Still, well, St Andrews. Birmingham's a shithole. I mean, the songs are just like, yeah, all right. But, I mean, the early stages of the game, not too much really to talk about. That we've had, until the goal, we've had a few instances of, like, very helter-skelter starts to matches. There was a little bit of that. There was some intent from Blues. We looked a little bit on the front foot. There was a moment very early on. There wasn't, like, the effort in the first minute that we've been having. I think that was a Jurgen Klopp thing at Liverpool, wasn't it? Just bash them really early. See if you can get a breakthrough. We're not quite Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. Sod it. Can dream, right? There was a little bit of sloppiness with Leonard with the ball just on a couple of minutes, and I'm just like, oh, is he settling? Blah blah blah. But then, Patrick Roberts decides to start having the best game he's had in a blue shirt. I like Patrick Roberts a lot. He was unlucky, really, to be almost scapegoated by being relegated to the bench for the Sheffield United game, but he does walk into this particular match with his reputation not sullied by the stain of that 3-0 joyous afternoon, that carnival of football that we so loved. But, I mean, he was just causing problems. And then, like, in the first 5 minutes, I genuinely couldn't have called the game before it started. I looked at the team sheet and thought that defence is in trouble. And I particularly at home, that we go into these games with a bit more confidence, I think. But there's just a feeling around Blues at the moment that the circuit board isn't quite like wired up properly. Sparks are going off where they shouldn't and stuff like that. And I sat there thinking it. And then Damari Gray, after an amazing through ball, I think it was off Peck, wasn't it? An amazing through ball off Peck. Wriggles hits the post. And you're just like, we should be winning. We should. Roberts by this point has forced a save, got a corner in. Damari Gray smacked the post, and I mean, I'm sat watching it, just like, oh, okay, we're actually going for this. This is proper home team Blues. We are causing them a whole bunch of issues, and we're forcing corners early on. We've got intent. We're going for goal. We're asking questions of Derby County. We're putting them under pressure, and the only warning signs really. Can I just note as well, Damari Gray? We talk a lot about his attacking play, and he's our most potent threat going forward. I think there's a slight 10 minutes in, he's doing this slide tackle to win the game, win the ball back, and you're just in a game where there were a fair few sloppy passes, not awful ones. I mean, not full Dion Sanderson level crossfield balls, but still a little bit sloppy. We had a few passes just go out for throw-ins. We were back to throw-ins where we give the ball straight away to the other team. God, that's frustrating. At least we're not back in like foul throw land. But what, 2-3 occasions we had throw-ins and just threw it to the Derby player. No, we can do this. And there was the warning sign coming from, I think it was Joe Ward, wasn't it, who was getting some purchase down the wing, able to get a cross into Aguiman up front for Derby, and Aguiman they had a very early opportunity to go ahead. We looked quite vulnerable at the start. We got the ball out, and then we pushed and pushed and pushed. We were causing them all sorts of problems. The warning sign, the first real warning sign, apart from the early effort, was Damari Gray goes down, and it takes a little bit of time to work out that he's not going to come back on. But this is evidently not good news at all, that to be without Damari Gray when we're about to play Southampton, Watford and Coventry, hopefully it's precautionary, comes off. It didn't look it, really. 15 minutes, it's time. Lewis Kumas comes on as substitute. Now, I talked about Lewis Kumas a fair amount in that. Clearly a very, very talented winger, regarded well enough to get a contract at Liverpool, but we've not really seen it for Blues. Here he had pretty much a run of a game to just see what he could do. Good. Excellent. I don't want Damari Gray off the pitch. I'd rather have had Anderson in, but wasn't an option. But Lewis Kumas, if it's going to happen, you've got to give him more than 20 minutes. So you've got to find the positives. So Kumas, we need to get the ball to him, see, just see what he could do. Could he unlock them a little bit? But I had that sneaking suspicion, we've not got Damari Gray. And even on a bad performance, QPR, it's a bit of magic from Damari Gray that's nearly dug us out of a hole a few times. I mean, he started off actually quite well, closing players down and stuff like that. But the whole game, there was just a muted, nervous feel to it, I think. As much as we were looking decent in the early stages, there were players who weren't in the game. And it's at the top of the park. We're 20 minutes in, I was just like, has Dutch touched the ball yet? I think he'd had a couple or something. Has Stansfield really touched the ball yet alone got into a shooting position? He continues to be a tremendous engine room. I think when Blues aren't winning games, it's players like Peck and Stansfield who take an unfair level of the blame sometimes. Stansfield has been played in all sorts of positions, very few of which seemed designed to get him in the penalty area taking shots at goal, which he's very good at. Peck, I think, I've seen some pushback on how he played today. I thought he's the midfielder less likely to lose the ball. I thought he was putting good passes. I don't think it was his best performance. I don't think it was a problem at all, actually. I think he's upped his game 10% this season. I'm really, really happy with Peck. I was really happy with, 21 minutes in. Do you remember the bit where Jack Robinson suddenly drives forward, puts through a really good pass, a really good long pass? Roberts gets a shot blocked, the first of many, many, many blocks that we're about to see from the Derby defence. A couple of minutes later, Dutch must have been listening to what I'm saying, does this little backheel flick. I think it's Roberts or Kumas he managed to get in. And we start putting the crosses in at this point, and you're watching it and you're just like, one of two things here. Either the crosses aren't very good or Derby are very good at defending. And then I had the eureka moment. These two things can both be correct. that Derby, the latest team to turn up with very physical centre-backs. Boy, were they physical centre-backs at the time. Very physical centre-backs. And yeah, we're what's the point of playing a high cross in when we just not got the players? We've not got Willemsen on the pitch. We've not got Dykes on the pitch. We've not gone for that liner. Marvin Dukes, to a degree of frustration, really. He's not the physical striker I think some of us thought he would be. I think he's a little bit more elegant and skillful than that. It feels like a luxury we can't afford to have Dutch and Kyogo. I mean, at the moment, Jack Robinson has scored more league goals than Kyogo. No, it's just, you can't argue at times with statistics. We'll come back to that one. Kumas is in the game a lot, I thought he wanted the ball. He was active. He was pushing for it. He was getting in good positions. Same problem. A little bit weak. In fact, that's a little bit unfair, because I've had frustrations this season that he just feels easier than most to bully off the ball. Here, there are a couple of times when he lost it actually, and he battled back and got the ball back. The crosses just weren't much cop though, were they? How many did he put in? Like 6, 7, 8 crosses? I think 1, 2 looked like they might cause any kind of trouble. And he wasn't a lone offender. I mean, Leonard had one great free kick that none of our players even thought to go for. I wonder if that was because a free kick just before, it looked like 4 of our players were offside, so we just decided to do completely the opposite thing. But the deliveries just felt slightly off. And so then you get that moment where you get Lewis Kumas peels for a penalty in the box. You're never going to get that. The kind of penalty you're just like, no, that's never going to happen. And then wouldn't you know it, 30 seconds later, boom, it's in our net. Remember what we did to Blackburn? Derby did it to us. A little bit of self-inflicted here, that we're playing incredibly high line. Our defence, I mean, you look at Klarer, Robinson, Cashin, they're not speedsters. They have qualities. I thought, Robinson had a really good game. I don't think Cashin had a bad game either. Robinson easily outpaced. Klarer, though, I've seen Beadle get some criticism for the goal, a header that went in off his post. Klarer is drawn out of position. If you rewatch it, and he goes, I mean, he just basically gives Aguiman the free header in the box, happily gobbles it up. It's a beautifully placed header. The only argument is, could Beadle have come for it? The problem was Klarer had put him in this position, really. And so it was a little bit of, remember that old board game, Mousetrap? It's just like, it just felt like everything was just kind of going wrong a little bit. That triggered, boom. All started with Lewis Kumas protesting for a penalty that wasn't a penalty, and in fact was just like another attempt to get the ball in the middle that wasn't very good. So, I mean, in fairness, right, we come back fast at this. There has been a frustration from Blues that in a couple of the games over the last month or two, we don't really go full intensity, certainly away from home, until about 10-15 minutes from the end. We're not pushing, we're not trying. It's not that we're not trying, but we're not really driving forward. I thought, in fairness to Blues, and I think it's easy to lose sight of this, we pushed and pushed and pushed. We gave it a real go, and from pretty much like us conceding the goal onwards, with the exception of the start of the second half, we were just driving at them. We looked really cheesed off. I thought, good. I'm glad cheesed off. And then we got our Christmas present. So, Joe Ward, Derby can't be happy. They can't be happy. Does that kicking the ball away thing, and you just, all right, silly booking. You sort of hope it will bite them on the backside. Usually it bites us on the backside. Roberts gets free again. A terrific first half, a proper 9 out of 10 first half. Deserved the goal. Gets free again. He's running at the goal, running towards a defender. I mean, with the best will in the world, it was the worst that was going to happen here. For Derby, at least, was Roberts was going to have to slow down to negotiate this defender. I mean, he could have popped in a 30-yarder. It didn't look very likely. And instead, Ward just tangles his legs. He's just like, that's silly. Down to 10 men. Just like Christmas present. Usually this is the gift we give to other teams. And now, out of nowhere, just like, we're 1-0 down at home, but I mean, without question, we had to look at that and think there's 3 points here. And bluntly, again, I keep saying I'm not a footballer, but you're playing a team who we've gone toe to toe with, who I don't think could look very good. Full disrespect, full disrespect. Sorry, hang on. That's better. Full respect to Derby. I don't think they looked at their best. I don't know if they had players injured or something like that. I thought that was a team we could beat. They'd had their counter-attacking goal. Were it not for their superb defending, I'm sure I'll mention it again. But were it not for the fact we're coming off like a really desperate few matches, I think most of us would have looked at that and thought, no, we can win this. You know, we've certainly got the players to win it. We've got the personnel here to win it. But just like they're down to 10 men, and I mean, we just went for it. We just kept going and going and going at them, and it just wasn't happening, was it? You know, just there was a bit just before half time where I think it was Stansfield gives the ball to Kumas, and Kumas just doesn't read it. And I'm like, I know you two don't play together very much, and this isn't me piling on Kumas because the ball didn't look great. Was Stansfield look? I don't know, but all I can do is, as a paying punter, sit and watch it and just think that's not supposed to be like that, is it? You know, that ball, if it leaves his foot, he's supposed to be able to get to him. Why has it gone to a throw-in for them? With the crucial word again. Why is it happening again? Why we didn't? So. We are in the Derby penalty area a lot. This isn't like Bristol City level of frustrations where we dominate 2/3 of the pitch. We're not in the final third. We were in their penalty area a lot. We had the Leonard free kick. We had the moment where it was just a few minutes before half time, wasn't it? It was Dux had a free kick. Dux took it, and the Derby keeper, let me look his out, Vidal Zetterstrom, much to the confusion of Beadle in the opposite goal, caught the ball. You know, saved it and held onto the ball. Beadle didn't have a bad performance. That's no actual dig at that. It's more noting that Beadle tends to be very good at pushing it away or punching it out or doing a slightly unorthodox clearance or something like that. He's good at getting the ball away. This guy just caught it. I was just like, yeah, all right, that's fair enough. But then, I just wrote some things down as this was going on. Cashin and Kumas weren't gelling. The crosses from the left were appalling. We're moving up the pitch fast. Derby just happy to sit back and get to half time. I did think, as Derby were just hoofing it, trying to get to the half time whistle, we were absolutely dominant for that 10-15 minute period before half time, and it felt like we should and we needed to get something before John Eustace could get them back in the dressing room and get them to regroup. The ref was good, I thought, in some departments. He's good at clamping down on time wasting. I like to see that. Keeper's holding the ball, he's throwing his arms up, so I'm watching you. Then, should we do all the contentious decisions in one go? I think that's probably easier, wasn't it? I did get to half time and just think, why do other teams do better with 10 men than us? Well, we've been down to 10 men 3 times this season, 3 defeats, 3 times, all 3 times we've been down to 10 men. We've shipped 3 goals and looked like shipping more, whereas Derby looked pretty solid. I mean, we were throwing in corners that were so deep they were going out the other side. They were winning headers in defence. We were winning the midfield headers and stuff like that. I was really impressed with that. But that free kick that Leonard just put in low, we'd gone from the one free kick where everyone was attacking to the ball to one where no one would be able to throw a dart at it. They were that far away. It just yeah. So we get to half time. The plus sides at half time. We're 1-0 down. We're playing a team. We played well. I know that's like, I know some people will disagree on that. I thought we were playing pretty well. I thought we were playing better than Charlton, nowhere near the level of the Watford game or the assorted 4-goal victories before that. But Watford, to me, was the yardstick of what we can and should be aiming for. You know, really, really fighting and getting really angry if a team even thinks they're coming onto our ground and taking points off us. I thought we were really missing Gray by half time. Gray without Ward on that side, I just think would have made mincemeat of them. But Dux, I felt, was missing. Leonard a bit on and off, but doing pretty decently. Peck all right. Roberts great. And then, I don't know. I looked at the statistics at half time. We'd had 11 shots, 4 on target. And the bit that just stuck in my head was, how many of those shots are actually coming from our strikers? Where are the shots coming from? You know, how many of those shots has Marvin Duksh, our striker, had? How many has Stansfield had? The brilliant striker on our books. How many's he had? In fact, look, most of them I think were from Patrick Roberts and Damari Gray smacking the post. I didn't think we were awful. I wasn't in the slightest bit surprised to see Derby start the second half, taking off 2 attackers, bringing on a defender and a midfielder, and basically expecting us to go for it. And then I just thought, well, we're just a bit shaky. It took us a frustrating 5 minutes or so to get going in the second half. I mean, Leonard and Roberts gave the ball away, giving away a goal kick inside a minute when we were attacking. Cashing a not great ball in, another goal kick, and we just like. Then Sky pans to the crowd, right? And any fans of the Muppet Show watching, remember the 2 grumpy old gits in the balcony, Waldorf and Statler? I'm a Muppets fan, right? It's just like they pan straight across the blue star. It's just like it's like watching I'm as guilty as this, right? I watch them like that sometimes. Just like it's like the 2 old guys from the Muppet Show. That would be me in the stands as well. That just the sense that just like the expectation level of this team has dropped in 3 months. I say that as a fan. My expectation level's gone down a little bit. I think generally the feeling is slightly different. Klarer gets booked a few minutes in the second half for a free kick, and what's that? His sixth booking of the season. A free kick that Derby take comes off our wall. I mean, we're defending it all right at that point, but we never. Well, for 5-10 minutes or so, we just didn't really look like we had control against 10 men. In fact, early in the second half, you might remember, Aguiman gets forward. He's able to put a ball across our goal for a tap-in. Not that any Derby player's anywhere near it. I remember Eustace ball. But Aguiman is causing a lot more problems for our defence than our attackers are causing for theirs. And there's only one of him. And, I mean, at one point, I got a new abacus for Christmas. I broke it trying to count how many players Derby were putting behind the ball for as soon as we were in possession and going forward. 15, 20, it felt like loads. Remember that? What was that film? 300. It felt like they got all them in, just screaming at us. That they were just desperately trying to get the ball out of the box, and they were very good at it. There was a bit there, I think 5-6 minutes into the second half. Let's do one of those contentious decisions that I think it's Matt Clark decides to have a tickle of Marvin Duksh's breasts in the penalty area. His arms are all around him. This was on 51, 52 minutes, wasn't it? And like they're all around him, and you, in the list of things you can't do. We'd already had like 1 or 2 where you're just like, oh, but I mean that had penalty written all over it, really. Derby, I think, knew they got away with one. It would level itself up. I fully appreciate that. But you're just like, I just thought at that point, when not even a whiff of like interest from the ref on, this might be one of those days. This might be one of those days. I then get a little bit of hope when Kumas starts putting like low crosses in. You're just like, this is better, because now they've managed to pack their box with 3-4 really tall centre-backs. Now we've got to change our tactic. God, imagine Ethan Laird cutting into that penalty area and trying to put his low cross across the 6-yard box. I know he wasn't playing, you can't do it, just like, but that kind of directness, I think, was kind of what we were missing. And Kumas was trying it, to be fair. I thought Kumas worked really, really, really hard. But it just wasn't clicking. And it's just like, do we do like the chat about, is it Kyogo Day? I mean, something had to give, something had to be tried. Kyogo comes on 58 minutes for Duksh. Samstead comes on for Cashin. Aaron Cashin, I thought you had a decent game. No quarrel there at all. Samstead, a natural defender. I'm quite happy to accept he is not of the level of Buchanan and Laird and Cochrane. I don't think he's a million miles off. We look at a more structured team with him on the pitch. I think he had one loose pass. Other than that, I thought he looked like we had a fullback. Someone like an overlapping fullback. And I think he's pretty good at it. There was urgency from us. I was really pleased to see this, actually. I mean, I think it's about an hour in, we get a goal kick, and we're desperate to take it. And you're just like, yeah, great. Over half an hour left. You're desperate to get that goal kick moving. Brilliant. We win a throw. We're desperate to take the throw. Really fast. And then you've got, I don't know, you've got a real sense of intent, but who on earth is going to put the ball in the goal? Nobody saw this coming. Right, my late dad, bless him, back when Blues had the bookmakers inside the ground. His standard bet was a 2-0 win with Martin Granger scoring the first goal. I think I mentioned this before, and he won a few times, and he switched it to Seb Larsson after a while. Bless your dad, you never would have put Jack Robinson to get the first Blues goal. Derby fans very much would suggest that he shouldn't have got the first Blues goal. The ball comes in. Robinson has absolute intent to get the ball. It does roll up against his arm. There's no intent in the ball knocking his arm, but I'd be cheesed off it was given against us. It is the worst goal we have scored all season. The most rubbish, crappiest, scrappiest goal since, was it Watford in a playoff semi-final? Since a ball went in off Dele Adebola's arse. It was that level of terrible goal, and it was just what we needed. At the end of player awards, I hope they do a worst goal of the season award, and I hope Jack Robinson strides up there, proud as punch, and lifts the trophy aloft, because it was intent. He desperately wanted to win that. He smuggled it over the line. I still don't quite know how. Well, we do, Suzanne. I respect that Derby fans will be cheesed off with it. I would be if I was a Derby fan. Fortunately, I'm not a Derby fan. Blues goal. Woohoo! You take what you can get. There's no VAR, else we'd have had a penalty like just before. We'd have missed the penalty, right? But that notwithstanding, we'd have had a penalty. We can tell ourselves it would level up. It was a dreadful goal. It knocked Robinson ahead of Kyogo in the goal scoring charts, and I think it's worth noting that out as well. But then Kyogo is causing problems for them, and we get a free kick straight away from our kickoff, from their restart, when the ball's launched forward to Kyogo, and he's just taken out. Was it Nelson took him out? But then, just as Jack Robinson's celebrating the worst goal of the season, he nearly scores the best. Just outside the box, ball comes to him, boff! Really good save. And I watched the replay of it. The ball was moving and swerving as well. It was a really good save. The striker we've been missing all season has been serving a suspension. Who knew? I thought he was great today. All right. Clearly positioning at fault for the Derby goal, but I don't think ultimately he was the reason it went in. I think that was the mousetrap effect. Lots of things going wrong. He pulled his socks up, rolled up his sleeves, and tried desperately to get us back into the game. There were lots of little niggly fouls there. And I mean, there was all sorts of players throwing themselves to the ground. We were doing bits of it. They were doing bits of it. The ref was struggling to keep control, just sort of had it. But some of his decisions were odd. I think there were a couple of fouls. I mean, I think we had 2 penalty shouts in the end. I think one were 2 good ones. I think one should have been given. One, you take it if they give it. Maybe if there's VAR, I don't know. It looked soft. That notwithstanding, we're pushing into their penalty area. These moments only come up when you're in their 18-yard box. And so then we get the next contentious moment in a game that I have to say, right, if I hadn't been supporting one of the teams, this is just the kind of football match I'd have loved to have watched. Two championship teams absolutely battling, really wanting this. Fouls everywhere, good shot, great shots, saves, just battling, fighting, actually giving a shit. I really enjoyed watching the game, apart from all the bits like that come with being a Blues fan. But the bit where Klarer does the tackle on the halfway line, what was that? It was about 20 minutes left, 25 minutes left, was a photocopy for me of what Jack Robinson did at Coventry to get sent off. If Robinson had done what Klarer had done, he would have been dragged all over the internet tonight. It was Klarer. He got away with it. Bizarrely, John Eustace gets booked for Klarer at the point where he should have been sent off but wasn't. Arms were... it wasn't a good moment. And then we just keep coming. There's a bit, actually, where I thought Kyogo had a bit of a Robbie Savage moment. He was so fighting to get the ball back. And just this whole, proper battle. A battle that was ultimately defined by Derby defenders' willingness to throw themselves in front of the ball. In amongst all the fouls and the bad-temperedness and all the stuff you want to see, we were having shot after shot after shot after shot that didn't trouble the goalkeeper. Not because it wasn't on target, not because it wasn't a good shot. It was because a Derby defender got in the way and did something about it. There was a moment where Kyogo for instance, would have been played in had it not been an interception from a Derby player just at the last minute. And I'm sat there thinking, well, do you know what? This is better from Blues than Charlton, than the home game against Charlton. It's worse than Watford. You know, I contemplated that as another corner went over everyone's heads. And it just had that feeling towards the end, didn't it? That it was just going to be one of those. I mean, minutes to go, Kyogo has a flick wide from his head. The 88th minute, cross it. I mean, Kumas comes off, and I don't think that was unreasonable in the end either. Dykes comes on, Willemsen comes on, and we're throwing stuff. We're throwing stuff at them, but they keep getting these blocks in, and then Klarer has this absolute moment of madness. I love Christoph Klarer. I think he's been an immense player for us, and even on his worst weeks he gives us 7 out of 10. Most of the time 8, 9. A proper leader, a proper captain. If any other player on our team had done what he did, we would be outraged. Outraged, maybe not. We'd be really cheesed off. Let's go with that. Really cheesed off. I'm seeing some argument about whether it should have been a straight red, whether there was actually any contact. There's blood on the guy's head, wasn't there? Whether it was a yellow and just a 1-match ban. He's going to be banned for 3 matches. It's exactly the same as what we were talking about last week against Sheffield United. If someone had done the Tommy Doyle tackle on one of our players, we would have been howling for a red card. Klarer, if someone had done the equivalent on one of our players, we'd have been howling for a red card. I can't argue it's a red card. If we're lucky, we'll get it down to a 1-match ban. I don't think we will. Self-inflicted wounds there. Just to tie up this match, though, we still kept going and still, to our credit, looked like the team most likely to win it. And then Robinson's header in the last minute was outrageously good. Outrageously good. Hits the bar, doesn't bounce over, just bounces down. It's that close to us winning the game. And Chris Davies came out afterwards and said, "Oh, we deserve to win." I love you, Chris. We didn't quite. We were playing 10 men for 50 minutes on our own turf. We didn't do enough to win it. And, you know, we all sat and watched the game in various positions. I don't remember Zetterstrom having to make too many world-class saves to keep us out. I remember us having lots of shots, lots of efforts. We couldn't get our shots past their defenders. We're for whatever reason now, we're not a threat from our strikers. And I do think that is becoming a fairly urgent thing to address. A 1-1, and it's, I mean, you take it, don't you? When I saw the team selection, I'd have taken a 1-1. After the performance, I'd have wanted a win. And certainly after the sending off, I'd have absolutely wanted a win. And we get to the halfway point of the season with, well, I mean, you look at the table now. We're 23 games in. We're in 15th place with 30 points. Our form in the last 5 games has been appalling. 3 defeats, 2 draws. And, I mean, we're 8 points off the relegation zone. How far are we? 6 points off the playoffs. So we are absolutely mid-table. Won 8, drawn 6, lost 9. And I think, I'm going to... Mr. Positive, right? We've underperformed here. We have a squad that could and should get us in the top 10. For whatever reason, we're not getting a tune out of them at the minute. We haven't got a tune out of them since the 1st of December. And the problem we've got now is we've got 3 really difficult games with limited personnel, limited options for Chris Davies to tinker with. So the self-inflicted wounds. Tommy Doyle isn't going to be back till the Coventry game. Christoph Klarer is going to be missing for, just say it, for Southampton, for Watford, for Coventry. Damari Gray, that's not looking too clever, is it? Keshi Anderson, Cochrane, Buchanan, right? We have problems here. We have personnel who can get results, but what we're going to have to get through as Blues fans is the announcement of 3 team sheets that we're going to look at and just think, that's 11 names on a piece of paper in a barely readable font, and just hope that the team has some of, I'll say it, the Jack Robinson spirit today, because it's a good enough collection of players to grind out results and get results. Your free-flowing 4-0s, they ain't happening anytime soon. I'm happy to be surprised. I like tempting fate by saying that ain't going to happen. I'm happy to be surprised. I don't think I'm going to be surprised. And let's face it, the pressure is going to turn on Chris Davies a little bit. I am not a Davies out person or anything like that, but we're back at that conversation, aren't we? And we've not had a really good 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 Blues performance since the 1st of December. This isn't the end of the world. We're not going to get relegated. I mean, come back and comment on this at the end of the season if I'm wrong. We ain't going to get relegated. It's not that. It's just the feeling that we should be competing a little bit further up the table with what we've got. The next 3 matches, I think, are... Let's go as positive as we can. They're going to be massively challenging. If they don't go our way, that is going to be a very big test of the Birmingham City fan base. Do we knee-jerk? Do we back the people that we've got? I come back to 2 things. Number 1, I look at the list of our last 10 seasons, of which only one of which has been thoroughly enjoyable. I've quite enjoyed this one, but this season hasn't finished yet. Against that feeling, we should be doing better with what we've got. I don't think we should be doing enormously better. I think there's a 10th and 8th place finish with the personnel that we've got. January's looking important, and I'm fully aware there are some people who've written this season off. I don't think it would be a bad exercise for us to see if we can get a run of 7, 8 results. Sneak into the playoffs would be lovely. If we don't win them, we don't win them. But the experience of the playoffs, I just think you have to set your moonshot. I don't think you do it with irrational expectations and sack everyone if you don't get near it. But I think you've got to aim for something. I think we've got to get back to the expectation is higher than I think most of us have going into the ground at the moment. It's not been a great few weeks to be a Blues fan. It's not, though, been a great 10 years to be a Blues fan. Yet here we are. And if we carry on as we're doing, we will hit 60 points by the end of the season if you just photocopy like one half of the season onto the other. The last time we hit 60 points in a championship season was, yes, 10 years ago, admittedly with a lot less investment, with Clayton Donaldson's goals going in and all of that, all sorts of mitigating factors. The place is not on fire. I do think that Tom Wagner is watching. I can't imagine they're thrilled. I can't imagine Chris Davies is thrilled. I ain't thrilled either. But nor am I panicking. And this final drink of the day, I've given him enough grief on this over the last month or two. Jack Robinson, well played, sir. Do it again. Home to Southampton. See you then.